Alright, so this is me, Conaanaa, and I'm here with
GoOdJo from TL here.
and this is going to be a pretty nice match. This is going to be a post-game analysis on this game. It's Savior versus Stork. It's going to be a best out of 3, and it's played on the map Desperado. It's part of the GOM TV MSL, so this is going to be a very great game.
Yeah, you're going to see here that Stork starting in the top right here, and Savior at the bottom right, and you'll notice these positions are really close, so this is why Savior, you'll see a lot of drops utilize this game from the close positions, and I think that really played a large part in Savior's game and game plan.
Yeah, what really is good about this is later we'll see the close map positions, but there's a little peninsula on the very end of each base, which makes it very easy to drop from main to main, and each main is very huge, so it's easy to maneuver around as well.
Not only is it easy to drop on that small peninsula, but it's very easy to hide units there, and yeah, it's just very easy to hide units down there and sneak units across, kind of like an elevator almost, except from base to base. And just a small thing, you'll notice Savior doesn't exactly scout the main, and he's automatically expecting a fast expansion from Stork, so he scouts straight to the natural of Stork. So that's just something to notice on his scouting habits there, and Savior with a fast expansion here.
Yeah, in a lot of games, Savior really expects his opponents to fast expand when they're Protoss. But you see something very strange right now is that Stork is getting a very early assimilator for early gas, and this is something that gives him some fast tech. But since the Overlord for Savior is going to scout the natural first, it's not going to see that early gas as early. So there's not going to be an early rush. If Savior did see that gas very early in that fast tech, he could have possibly rushed and won the game right there.
Well, it definitely gives Savior an edge if he knows. He's pretty certain that Stork has started a fast gas, but he sees that Stork is going to play one base, but he doesn't really know the extent of how early Stork's gas was. So that's something that plays a big factor, that Stork had a really early gas, or a sort of, not really early, but it was a pretty early gas there, and then that allows him to tech very quickly to Stargate.
Yeah, so right now we see the Stargate right here. I have a little bit of a question though, because since we now know that Savior does know that Stork is going to be doing such a fast tech, and we see that there's only one zealot on the ramp, why doesn't Savior just try and begin applying pressure on Stork at this point and punish him for going for such fast tech?
Well, Savior's also he's also playing a 3 hatchery build, so he has to get his economy going, because if a rush like that fails, which mostly would, because Stork's micro is seemingly very good, and also by the time Savior got to Stork's ramp, he probably would have enough probably 2 zealots and a dragoon ready for Savior to be there, for Savior's Zergling rush there. You see Savior's adding a Hydralisk in here, so, and he's also early Spire, so an early layer. An early layer like that definitely indicates that you're not going to do any kind of Zergling you're not going to do anything with any early Zerglings, because that early gas is used for a layer instead of speed.
Yeah, and then right there we just saw some poor control where he lost a Overlord to a Dragoon. If he went straight to the right, he probably could have saved that Overlord. And then we see some pretty nice timing, because as soon as that Overlord was killed by the Dragoon, another Overlord is going to be attacked by this Corsair over here. So it's very nice timing by Stork. We see this gameplay is a little bit similar to Bisu's build, where he gets a lot of Corsairs in the beginning to kill as many Overlords as possible. And this is really going to affect the gameplay of Savior right now, because he's going to have to kit a bunch of Overlords, which are quite expensive in early game, before he can create more units and drones. So, do you think this attack on the front with the Zealots and the Dragoons, with the Corsairs in the back, do you think this is well played by Stork at this point?
I think it was a good idea to add the pressure, and I think Stork just kind of saw the opportunity that there wasn't many units there and just decided that he would try and run up the rank and try and gain a little more of an even farther advantage on Savior. But I think it was a smart idea. As you can see, he's taking the Dark Templars, and he still only has one gateway. He has not expanded. He's still only producing Corsairs out of one Stargate, and I think, like you said, it's similar to Bisu's build in that it's a fast tech to Corsairs, but he didn't fast expand directly after getting those Corsairs, or in Bisu's case, he fast expands before he gets his Corsairs, but they're still fairly fast. But I think that really means Stork isn't going to have the economic advantage to beat Savior that Bisu had in the games he played against Savior. So I think that's what eventually led to Stork not being able to win. It's that Savior had the economic advantage, but by adding that pressure with the Overlord, with the Sair attacks on the Overlords, and the pressure with those 3 Zealots and 2 Dragoons at the front there, that really caused Savior to not really have too many drones at his natural. As you can see, he only had 3 when they went by there. Well, 5 now. You can see those other 2 walking by, but he really only had 3, or he only has 5 drones, and it's almost 7 minutes into the game, so that really puts a big strain on Savior's economy. But since Stork didn't fast expand, that doesn't give him that big advantage he needed.
Yeah, and even though he did take out a lot of Overlords, he really doesn't have that great of an economy right now. The first Dark Templar is out, and we see that finally Stork is expanding. But we just saw that there's very poor control with his Corsairs a few seconds ago, where he lost 2 Corsairs, and he was trying to kill an Overlord, but he didn't even manage to kill the Overlord, and he lost 2 Corsairs. Now this Dark Templar is going to try and do some damage, but Savior immediately turns his units around. And what I have a question about is, why doesn't Savior get at least a single spore? Because in those Bisu versus Savior games, we saw that Bisu snuck in a lot of Dark Templars and managed to kill tons of drones with those Dark Templars.
Well, I think it's very obvious to Savior that Stork has been using up a lot of his gas, even though he has 2 of them. He's been using up a lot of gas for Corsairs and now for Dark Templars. And Bisu was really utilizing drops, especially on the game Blitz, where Bisu was dropping Dark Templars into Bisu's base and taking out tech buildings and taking out many drones and hatcheries. But I think it's safe to assume that he's going to do any large attacks on his main by any sort of drops right now, since he's using so much gas, and he's also just now expanding, so that's definitely putting Stork into kind of a defensive mode now as he gets his expansion under control.
Yeah, and we're just finally seeing that Savior is getting his second gas, and he already has Overlord speed, but right now we see that the natural of Stork really doesn't have that much defense. I mean, I think he saw that there was an early lair, so there's sometimes where these Protoss people would build cannons at their mineral lines, but what I think is that it wastes a lot of money. So how can Stork be sure that it's not going to be a Mutalisk build, or is he just trying to risk his natural?
Well, Mutalisk at this point wouldn't really be a very big threat, seeing as he has 3 High Templars and an Archon, and he has quite a few cannons at his choke there, and also at his main. So any Mutalisk that come to his natural would very easily be dealt with. So, but I'm pretty sure Stork is pretty certain that Savior's not doing any kind of Mutalisk build right about now, since he saw quite a large number of Hydralisk outside of his choke there, and we're going to see a drop here by Savior in a second.
Yeah, this drop is really going to take advantage, and we have to pause this right now.